Hello everyone, and today I'm doing a deck tech for Neyali, Sun's Vanguard. Neyali is a human rebel. Attacking tokens you control have double strike, and whenever one or more tokens that you control attack a player, exile the top card of your library, and during any turn you attack with the token, we can play that. So this is just some good old-fashioned Boros tokens. Game plan. The deck does not need Neyali to win, but the double strike and impulsing is going to help us stay consistent, deal more damage, and help the game end faster. So we're going to want to flood the field with tokens and give up double strike with the commander, just hit for a ton of damage. While we're doing that, Neyali is going to give us card advantage by letting us play cards from our exiled, like lands and whatever. And then ultimately, we just win through getting more tokens than our opponents can handle and start swinging with them. Planeswalkers. Elspeth, Sun's Champion. Elspeth is great because 6 mana is steep, but she comes in, she's going to make 3 1/1s, and again, those are going to be like our main goal of the deck is producing a ton of tokens and just beating in. So 3 tokens right away, and then we can destroy all creatures with power 4 or greater. We don't really get creatures that big that easy, because again, like we're really focused on having like a bunch of like 1/1s and 2/2s with double strike. So her minus is just like a big ult, mostly for our opponents. And then if we can somehow like get our big 7 creatures have +2/+2 and have flying, and if they're minimum 3/3 flying double strikers, I mean, come on, the game's over. Next we have Zariel. I like the idea of Zariel, so here's my thought process with it, right? 4 mana, creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain haste until end of turn. So if we make tokens on a turn, we can buff them and then make sure that they can attack that turn. We can like 0 her and just get a token that will deal 1 damage to something when it dies. And then if we somehow alter at the end of our first combat, we basically get another combat. So again, we win through combat. So I think she's good. Also, I really like her art. Creatures. Adeline, X4 with Vigilance for 3. She makes a token and her X is equal to the number of creatures we control. So whenever we attack, not just with her, but just like attack for each opponent, we make a 1/1, token attacking them, which is nice because I build these decks assuming pods of 4 with 3 opponents. So if you're just like attacking like each of our opponents, like she already brings in like a 2/1 double striker, just going at them. We have Adriana, who's a 4/4 melee, which is a keyword not many people use. Whenever this creature attacks, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each opponent you attack this combat, and then other creatures have melee. So it's nice when we have like Adeline and Adriana, for example, is a good combo, because whenever like we attack, we can just like send a token at each opponent, and it just so happens that since we're attacking all of our opponents, like those guys are now 4/4 double strikers, which is really nice. Aurelia, the War Leader, classic card, flying, vigilance, haste. Whenever she attacks for the first time each combat, untap all creatures, and then there's another combat. Again, we went through combat. Blade Historian. Now you're probably thinking, if Neyali gives all of our guys double strike anyways, why run Blade Historian? Well, because Neyali only hits tokens, and it just so happens that a lot of our guys make tokens by attacking. Brimaz is a really good example on this, because like whenever he attacks, we make a 1/1 with vigilance that's attacking, and then whenever he blocks, we make a 1/1 that's also blocking. So Blade Historian helps with like a lot of effects like that. You'll see a couple more throughout the video. Captain of the Watch is really good. 6 mana 3/3 that gives our other soldiers +1/+1 in vigilance. It's kind of a low-key tech in the deck. It's not super intended, but like you look at like random cards like Brimaz, like he's a soldier, he makes soldiers. So Boros just happens to have soldiers intrinsically in the colors. So a nice lord for all that. And then when she enters, she makes a bunch of basically 2/2s that again we attack when they have double strike. So very nice. Big lord, and she makes she's a 3/3 body with vigilance that also makes a bunch of 2/2s. Darion, King of Keldor, maybe? I don't know. Whenever you're dealt damage, you put that many 1/1 soldiers into play. He's nice because like since we're swinging out a lot, we're kind of going to be shields down, so he's kind of incentive to not attack us, right? Because it's like, oh, if like you hit us, like yeah, you can smack us for 5, but like we'll just get 5 like essentially like 1/1 double strikers out of it, so it's not really worth. Elish Norn, great card, makes our creatures at least 3/3s. and then kills a lot of our opponent's creatures, so they can only have 1/1s at best. Really good, really good. Esper Sentinel, funny little soldier. Whenever an opponent casts their first non-creature each turn, we can draw a card unless they pay X, or X is its power. At worst, it's 1, but if we have like Elesh Norn, they're gonna have to pay 3. He's just mainly there for card draw. He's annoying. He taxes our opponents because at the very worst, he makes our opponents have to waste more of their mana, giving them less options, or we just draw cards. So kind of a win-win. Frontline Medic is a great card. Whenever Frontline Medic and at least 2 other creatures attack, our creatures gain Indestructible, which is good because we don't want our guys dying. And then just worst case, we can just sacrifice Frontline Medic and counter a spell with X in its cost unless they pay 3. So it's kind of like a mana leak, like a white mana leak for X spells. So they can't fully tap out. Guardian of Faith is really nice because when he enters the battlefield, he has flash, and when he enters, any number of other target creatures you control phase out. So if someone wipes the board, Guardian of Faith just kind of takes one for the team. Hero of Bladehole I think is really good because 1, she has Battle Cry, so whenever this creature attacks, each other attacking creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. So when she does attack, she makes 2 1/1s tapped and attacking. So really, all in all, we read this with Neyali on the field. She makes essentially two 2/1s with double strike right away. That also buffs the entire field. She's just good. She's just good. Iroh, the whole god thing, Indestructible. Creatures have Menace, which is kind of nice, so they're more annoying to block. And then prevent all damage that would be dealt to attacking creatures we control. So it's like, 1, them having double strike is already annoying enough. Now they have Menace and double strike, and like even if you do block them, our guys are going to be fine, so it doesn't matter. Keeper of the Accord, at the beginning of each opponent's end step, if they have more creatures than us, we make a guy. And at the beginning of each opponent's end step, if they have more lands than us, we get a plains to the field tapped, which is nice. He's not like the best token producer. Like, he makes tokens if someone has more creatures than us, which isn't very likely, but still, possible. But he's really nice just because if an opponent has more lands than us, and like we're in Boros, if someone's playing green, they're gonna have more lands than us, so he's gonna help us like get lands, stay consistent. Krenko, whenever he attacks, put a 1/1 counter on him, and then make X 1/1 red goblin creature tokens that are equal to his power. So he attacks, we just make 2 1/1s right away. The next turn 3 1/1s, and so on and so forth until someone kills him. Legion Loyalist, 1 mana haste 1/1. Whenever he and 2 other creatures attack, our guys gain first strike, which isn't like a big deal because they already have double strike, but they get trample, which is a big deal. And then they can't be blocked by creature tokens, so like they can't just chump block essentially. Legion Warboss is nice because he's a mentor's not super relevant for him because he's like so tiny because he's a 2/2. But at the beginning of combat on our turn, we make a 1/1 goblin that has to attack, and it's basically just a 1/1 for double striking goblin that it's just annoying. We get a card out of it, and he's good token production. Lean and War Leader, again, just kind of the classic one of the creatures that like when he attacks, you make 2 1/1 double striking lifelinkers, which is nice. And he's also just a 4/4/4, which is a good rate. Loyal Apprentice, I'm iffy about this card, but I like the idea of it. He's a 2/1 with haste, which is fine for 2. And then at the beginning of combat on your turn, if we have our commander, which ideally we do, we make a 1/1 Thopter with haste. So it's just like a flying double striking 1/1. I just like it. Mariel, Shield of Argive, great card. During our turn, our opponents can't cast spells or activate abilities of whatever. But when Mariel attacks, you make X 1/1 soldiers, where X is the number of soldiers we control. So Mariel's nice because like at very base value, we have nothing else on the field, right? Mariel is a soldier herself. She attacks, we get 1 soldier. She attacks again, we get 2 more. So now we have 3, and it just like cascades out. But again, we have like other soldier effects. Like we have Captain of the Watch, even Odric over there is a soldier. So, Boros has soldiers. So she helps flood us out with tokens. And she's also really good because it says our opponents can't cast spells during our turn, which is nice. Odric is nice because he's a first striking 3/4, and he says whenever he and at least 3 other creatures attack, you choose which creatures block this combat and how they block. Fun fact, they don't block. You say they're not blocking, your guys are unblockable. Or if they have a problem creature you want to kill, great, it's done. Your guys have first strike anyways, or double strike. Professional Facebreaker, just good. Menace, not really like any big synergy with the deck, but whenever our guys deal damage, we make a treasure, which is good. Just so, you know, we're impulsing when we attack with our guys anyway, so we might as well get the mana to do so. And then we can sacrifice a treasure and play the top part of our library this turn, which is nice because if we need lands or whatever, like, she enables herself. She's very good. Sky Knight Vanguard, a flying 1/2, and whenever it attacks, you just make a 1/1 token that's tapped and attacking. You know, just another, like a mini version of it. And then we have Sun Titan. You know him, you love him. When he enters the battlefield or attacks, get a permanent with CMC 3 or less from our grave to the battlefield, which is nice because we are pretty low costed. I know we saw a lot of like expensive guys, but it helps us get back like Professional Facebreaker, Bremaz, Krenko, Sky Knight, whatever, right? You guys get the gist. Or if someone just blows up another one of our permanents or our lands or whatever, we can still get it back. Tylenoli Summoner, I hope I said that right. Great card. Ascend is good but not super relevant, but whenever she attacks, you can pay a red and X, and if we do create X, 1/1 red elementals tapped and attacking, and if we have the City's Blessing, they don't go away, but normally they go away. Which is what's great about this, right, is one, she kind of enables herself for the City's Blessing, and two, we can just dump all of the mana we don't like. We can just dump as much mana as we want into this and make that many attacking 1/1 double strikers, which is great. Welcoming Vampire, we make a lot of tokens. It's flying 2/3, great. Whenever one or more creatures with power 2 or less enters battlefield under our control, draw a card. Only happens once a turn, but again, we're basically drawing an extra card every turn with her. So here are the flip creatures I decided to add separate. Hamware Garrison, again, classic. Whenever attacks, make 2 1/1 red humans, tapped and attacking. Cool. Hamware Battlements, it's just a land, you know, it's tapped for colorless, we can give a creature haste. But if we have Hamware Garrison and Battlements, we get the Sunday special of the Writhing Township, which is a trample haste 7/4, and whenever it attacks, put 2 3/2 colorless Eldrazi tokens into battlefield tapped and attacking. Remember, those have double strike, so there's basically swinging them for 12 damage with that one, on top of the trample 7/4. And the other guy's Hamware Malicious Captain. He doesn't do anything right away, but maybe she, I don't know. Whenever Cult Leader's power and toughness are equal to the number of creatures you control, cool. And then at the beginning of our end step, we just make a 1/1 token. So it's kind of nice at the very end of the thing, we have like at least an untap blocker. Sorceries, Austere Command, we're pretty low costed. Since we make a lot of tokens, ideally we can just like, I mean, I like Austere Command because it's like a nuke for whatever you need. Someone's being annoying with artifacts, enchantments, big creatures, whatever, right? Worst case scenario, 6 mana, you destroy all creatures with 3 or less and 4 or more. Cool. But ideally we just destroy all creatures with current mana cost 4 or greater because they're going to be the most annoying with blocking our creatures, and get rid of like all artifacts or enchantments or whatever. Blasphemous Act, we have a lot of guys, so it's essentially a 1 mana deal 13 to each creature. Very cool. Finale of Glory is a card I like. Create X 2/2 soldiers, cool, with vigilance. And then if X is 10 or more, so if we can dump 12 mana into this somehow, we make X 4/4 flying vigilance angels with double strike. So that's like an end the game kind of card. If we can like live, our board can live with 10 4/4 angels, the game's over. Hour of Reckoning, destroy all non-token creatures. It has Convoke. Again, we're mainly winning with tokens. Everything else is just kind of like a means to an end. Increasing Devotion. I look at this card as basically 5 mana, make 5 1/1s, 9 mana, make 10 1/1s. They're all tokens, and that's what we want anyways. So again, it's 5 mana for 5 1/1 double strikers. Like, that works for me. Martial Coup, just make a bunch of guys. If there are 5 or more guys, destroy all their creatures. So it's just like a nuke, and like we still get 5 tokens out of it, and then it's cool because if we have like enough mana or so after it, or on our next turn, we can just play our commander again, and then now they have double strike, so that's like 10 damage right there. Finally, we have Sram's Expertise. He is, you know, just 4 mana. 4 mana for 3 servos is great, and then you can just play a card with CMC 3 or less from our hand without paying its cost. I really like this, like the Expertise cycle, especially Srams, because you're essentially just paying 1 mana for 3 1/1s, and then like you just get like, you're just paying like a regular 3-drop from your hand. Instance, Akroma's Will. Ideally we have our commander, so we can do both, but creatures get Vigilance, Double Strike, and flying until end of turn, which is nice if we want to kill someone, or if we're on the defensive, we can give our guys lifelink, protection, indestructible, all that. So if someone nukes our board, we choose the bottom. If we want to kill someone, we choose the top. Or if we have our commander, we do both, and it works out anyways. Boros Charm, just kind of like, I know tokens are vulnerable to nukes and stuff, so we're mainly running it to give permanents you control indestructible until end of turn, right? That's kind of like the reason, that's the main reason you're on Boros Charm. But it's also just good because we can deal 4 damage to it, like basically kill a planeswalker or hurt a player, or just give like one of our non-tokens double strike if we just like want to sneak in for a lot of damage. Call the Coppercoats, 3 mana, choose any number of target opponents, but it costs more with Strive. Create X 1/1 human soldier creature tokens, where X is the number of creatures your opponents control. So basically 3 mana, choose an opponent with the most creatures, you get that many 1/1s. So it's good. Like in like a worst case scenario, it's typically like, I don't know, 3 mana for 5 1/1s, and they're gonna have double strike. Chaos Warp, it's just good removal. Usually you're not going to flip into something bad. It can happen, but typically it's just like a land or whatever. Flawless Maneuver, again, 3 mana. If we have our commander, it's free, but creatures we control gain indestructible. We don't want nukes happening. Generous Gift, just get rid of something we don't like. They can have a 3/3, it doesn't matter. Grand Cassendo, another cool card. Make X 1/1 green tokens, and then our creatures gain indestructible until end of turn. So we just make like a bunch of guys, but worst case scenario, it's just a white, our creatures get indestructible. It's cool. It's just nice. So we can either make like a ton of guys on our end step, or like someone's end step when we start our turn, or someone tries to destroy our board, well, they're indestructible. Path to Exile, I actually usually prefer Swords to Plowshares over this card, but since we don't really want people to be gaining life, we're going to be using, like, they can have a land instead of gaining like 10 life or whatever. Raise the Alarm, it's just 2 1/1 white soldiers. That's it. Just an instant speed. It's really good if we want to make like quick blockers, or if we just want to have them be able to attack, whatever. Rootborn Defense, again, we have a lot of these like indestructible effects. This one says, creatures get indestructible, and we also populate, so we just choose a token we control and then make another one of them. So it's kind of nice. We just get like another one of our token. Secure the Waste is like the def. I know I said like Grand Cassendo, you do like at your end step if you want, but this is like you do it on like before your turn starts on someone else's end step. You just dump all the mana you can into it, and you make a ton of like X 1/1s that are gonna have haste anyway. Like they're just gonna have haste essentially on our turn. So a lot of damage. And then Teferi's Protection. Someone does something we don't like, we're gone. We're out of there. We're out of there. Thrill of Possibility. Just good card draw. That's really it. Like if we have like a land or something we don't want, we need other stuff. Maybe we're not getting stuff we need from our impulses. It's just quick, like we got some stuff. Wear and Tear, get rid of an artifact or an enchantment. Or we can do both. So it's good. White Sun Zenith, white, and X, create X 2/2s, and then shuffle it. So again, it's kind of like one of the, if we need blockers, we're in a pinch. It's like someone else's end step before we start our turn. We just get like a ton of guys. And then again, we can do it later because it shuffles back in. Artifacts. Arcane Signet and Boros Signet, they're just rocks. They just give us mana. Eldrazi Monument, I like the idea of, because it says creatures you control get +1/+1 flying and indestructible, which is great because that's kind of what we want in our tokens anyways. But it says at the beginning of our end step, sacrifice a creature. If we can't, sacrifice Eldrazi Monument. The reason I like this card is because our field naturally enables Eldrazi Monument, because a lot of our creatures are like, when you attack with this creature, make like some tokens, right? Like Bream, Lean, and War Leader, whatever. Right, so it's like we just have the fodder to get rid of it, and it just keeps our boys indestructible and flying, and it's a lord, so come on. Idol of Oblivion, we're mainly running it just because it says draw a card, activate this if you created a token this turn. So it's like basically in the middle of combat we can draw a card once we made a token or whatever, and then if we're feeling frisky, we can pay 8 mana, sacrifice it, and then we can get a 10/10 Eldrazi. And that's a token, so it's going to have double strike. So it's a funny, basically 2020. But we're mainly going to be using it just for the draw. Lightning Greaves, almost exclusively there to slap on our commander. Or if he's not there, just put it on whatever else, because we don't really have anything that like targets our creatures anyways. So leave it on the commander to keep him around. Oketra's Monument. White creature spells cost 1 less, which is good. Makes our command, like, we're pretty white heavy. I actually think it's like a 70-30 split between white and red. But whenever you cast a creature spell, just like even red regardless, just make a 1/1 White Warrior with Vigilance. So again, just makes a guy when you're... It's basically like all your spells come free with a guy. Soul Ring, that's it. Just Soul Ring. Enchantments. Anointed Procession. If we make a token, make double those tokens. Kind of good for a token deck. Assemble a Legion. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a mustard counter on it. Then create a 1/1 red and white, or each with haste, which is important with haste, for each muster counter on it. So again, like, it doesn't do anything right away. But if this card like isn't checked, it kind of gets pretty annoying, because it's like, all right, 5-mana enchantment does nothing. Next turn we get a 1/1. Next turn we get 2 1/1s, 3 1/1s, 4 1/1s, 10 1/1s with haste and whatever. Cathar's Crusade. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under control, put a 1/1 counter on each creature we control. Again, our guys have double strike and we make a lot of tokens, so our board's going to get pretty big pretty easily. Divine Visitation is sometimes a non-bow. It's like a non-bow with like Mario, because it makes angels instead of soldiers, but I feel like in most cases we want like big angels. So if one or more tokens would be created, instead that many 4/4s are created. So it's nice when you have like Raise the Alarm that makes 2 1/1s. Now with this on the field, Raise the Alarm makes 2 4/4s with flying and vigilance for 2 mana. Felidar Retreat. I kind of like the idea of using Felidar Retreat, just because it makes if we have like a land or whatever, or we impulse into a land after attacking and using Neyali's effect, at least we still get value out of it, because we can either just make a token, which is good, or we can put a 1/1 counter on all of our creatures and give them vigilance. So it buffs our team, or it just makes us guys. Very good. Outlaw's Merriment. Probably not the best card, but I think it's fun. So at the beginning of your upkeep, choose a one at random, and then you make a red and white guy with... So you're either making a 3/1 with Trample Haste, 2/1 with Lifelink Haste, or a 1/2 with Haste, and when it enters the battlefield, just ping a creature, or any target, really. It's probably not the best, but I really like it. Final enchantments are Prosperous Partnership. I actually hadn't seen this card before, or at least I didn't remember it when I was making this deck. So 3 mana, when it enters the battlefield, make 2 guys, which is good. But tap 3 guys, make a treasure. I like the idea is because when we have cards like Secure the Wastes, or we have cards like Grand Cassendo, or like just basically like when we have untapped guys and then we go to our turn, like on someone's end step, we kind of get value out of them, right? It's like, oh, well, like these guys were meant to be blockers, but if they're not going to be blockers, they're going to be ramp. They're going to give us treasure. Final, Rabble Rousing. Hideaway 5. When this enchantment enters the battlefield, look at the top 5 cards of our deck, exile one of them face down. And then when we meet the condition, we can do it, right? Whenever we attack with 1 or more creatures, make that many 1/1 creatures. So if we attack with 5 creatures, we get 5 guys. Then if we control 10 or more creatures, just play the card that we hit away for free. It's really good, right? Just because it kind of makes all of our guys, like all of the guys that we have effects like Brimaz and Lean and War Leader and like those, like where it's like you attack, you get a guy. Rabble Rousing makes all of our creatures do that. So it's very nice. And it's kind of like, it kind of incentivizes like full swinging with like all of our tokens, because it's like, well, even if you do like block and kill my guy, he just replaced himself. So it doesn't matter. Let's go to lands. Battlefield Forge is just a duel. Castle Ardenvale makes a guy, which is cool. And then Castle Embereth is cool because it gives our guys +1/+0, so it makes our 1/1 double strikers into 2/0 double strikers, so pretty good. Clifftop Retreat Command Tower, it's a duel. Fabled Passage is just kind of there to thin the deck. And I also, when I put this card in, I was like, I got Sun Titan on the brain. If we get Sun Titan and Fabled Passage, we can just loop it. So, whatever. I don't know. Field of the Dead, kind of one of those other cards that not really needed, but I think it's good for this deck because when it enters the battlefield, if we have 7 or more other non-basic lands, we just make a 2/2 token, which I like because we're a token deck. And it's just kind of like same logic with Felidar Retreat, where it's like if we have lands, like if we're like getting lands, we might as well have use for them if we don't have a use like right away, right? Like, so it's like if Felidar Retreat comes in, right, we can make a guy or we can buff our team. Field of the Dead comes in, like we get guys still, so it works out. Rugged Prairie, it's a filter land, it's very good. Sacred Foundry is, just a shock, it's good. Sokazan, I like the idea of, just because it's just a mountain, end of the day. Or we can discard it and make 2 1/1s with haste, which I kind of like. Again, because it's like if it's like in our hand and we don't need it, like it's out of here and it's like raise the alarm, right? Because we do have a good amount of legendary creatures. But worst case is just a land, or or a funny case. Go back to that Sun Titan train of mind, right? We discard it, get the guys, play with Sun Titan or attack with Sun Titan, get Sokazan as a land. Sounds cool. Spectator Cheating and Sundown Pass, they're just duels. You know, they're all good in their own rights. Finally, for lands, we have Temple of the Triumph, just to scry one. Hopefully we can play this early game. We have 8 mountains and we have 10 plains. So I think it's like 32 lands, I'm pretty sure. Yep, 32 lands. The deck is about $410. Average CMC is about 3.52. We run 32 lands, which isn't super great for that CMC, but since we're like low costed and like we can impulse and like do all that stuff, it's fine. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Comment what I do next. I'm out of breath, and I will see you guys next time.